Hello peeps and welcome to another edition of Politics is Life. My name is Yetunde Makinde. Today's content is titled The Differences Between Spirituality and Religiosity. Again, it's become imperative for me to do this because religious people generally tend to assume that they're on a spiritual path when they're not. A spiritual path is quite incompatible with a religious path. So what I'll do very quickly is run through the differences that I've been able to come up with on my own. So these differences are strictly from my perspective. My perspective as a religious person, my perspective as an Ifa adherent, my perspective from one who is devoted to the path of Olokun. So, though, in as much as the differences are universal, the differences between spirituality and religiosity, they are universal, but my perspective is more from those things that I've listed as an Onishashe, as one devoted to the path of Olokun. And so I'll just start. So I'm starting with this point, which is that Olodumare does not demand worship. As a matter of fact, there's a limit to what we as Olorishas know of Olodumare. Olodumare, like I explained in one of my previous videos, is a planetary entity and is transcendent. So that means we don't know so much about Olodumare. The Oshas, however, are immanent. We also do not worship the Oshas. We, however, feed them the same way we feed our Ori. In Ishashe, we feed Ori, our Bori, Adebo, and Webo. That is Oshas. There is no when we do these things, Tababori, Taboibo, it's for our benefit largely, not for the Oshais. It's mainly for us, for our benefit. In contrast, God and Allah and Jehovah demand worship of their adherents, worship and loyalty. And this come with threats too, this demand come with threat. If you do not follow, if you do not worship God, you're threatened with all manner of things, hellfire especially. We don't have that at all on a spiritual path. Demands are not made on you. You are at liberty to you have the liberty to do as you please, provided you do not contravene the laws that govern the universe. Spiritual people also do not discriminate against others. They free and support people to be their best. Religious people, however, discriminate against those different from them. They, as a matter of fact, have a name for unbelievers, infidels, unbelievers, kafir. I think that's an Arabic word, but I know it's been Yorubanized to be kefiri. So not only do they discriminate against people who believe differently or have no belief, they also have derogatory names for them. Religious people believe anyone who believes differently or has no belief are destined to rot in hell. That's such a hateful thing. That's hateful. That you condemn and judge people simply because they do not agree with your belief and choose to be God-free. My next point is spirituality uplifts and promotes cooperation among men. Ifa, the system that I adhere to, is typically about the development of good character, Iwakbale is a principle of Ifa, teachings. Iwakbale, development of good character, decorum, decency, omoluabi, the ethos of omoluabi, a decent person who acts with decorum. Religion, on the other hand, builds barriers between men. In my opinion, any system, by whatever name, that sets up barriers between brothers cannot be a good system. Period. We shouldn't try to debate or argue that. It's just completely illogical that a system that builds barriers between people can be thought to be good. The irony, people who revel in divisiveness want to convince us that absurd divisions and discriminations based on belief are divine. That doesn't make sense. It doesn't, it can't. It could be godly, but it's certainly not divine. You need to watch, I did a video titled God, the Made-Up Word. You should go watch that to understand the last thing I just said, that it could be godly, but certainly is not divine, because God is a made-up word. But my next point, on a spiritual path, we honor ancestors, and rightfully so. Spirit means invisible. That's all spirit means, at least my definition of it. That which cannot be perceived with the naked eyes. That's what we call spirit. And ancestor spirits are alive and well on higher planes of consciousness. We just do not see them with the physical eyes. But you can see them if you train your eye to be single. We're all energetic beings, okay? Once the physical body dies, the spirit survives it, and the spirit is all energy, which is why you won't, like for example, if I didn't have this physical body, you won't see me, you won't see my essence. You can't see my essence with your naked eyes. So in order for us to be able to traverse in this earthly plane is why we put on this dense body over our consciousness, over the energetic form that is us. Energies don't die. So our ancestors are not dead, they are alive, like I said. Energies basically transmute, transform into something better. Energy don't die, which is why the development of character is central to Ifa teachings. So that every time that you take that deep onto the earth plane, the purpose is for you to improve, to be better, to advance on the spiral evolutionary thread or journey. It's strange how people who condemn ancestor invocation and veneration are happy to call on dead saints of faraway cultures. What I've just said should help you understand why African countries are backward, why the entire African continent is poor and impoverished. Because what we do essentially is fight against our own ancestral energies. When we go and when we immerse, subscribe to and adhere to the religious system of foreigners, of strangers. I understand that these things were foisted on us, but for Pete's sake, we can grow up out of it. We can grow up out of nonsense. Let me paint a scenario of what I mean. What Africans do immerse is like it's like a group of people who go to a market, this world really, according to Ifa, this world is actually a marketplace. Ayeloja, unrunningly. This earth is a marketplace. So what Africans are doing en masse is we've arrived Earth with our wares. Everybody's come with their wares. All other groups too have arrived Earth plane with their wares. And everybody sat at the marketplace ready to, trade. But Africans are not by their own wares. We've abandoned our spirituality. We've abandoned the system that was bequeathed to us by our primordial ancestors, the Irumales. We've abandoned the system. We now go and stand in the stalls of other people, stand behind the wares of other people, of foreigners, and help them advance and push their own wares, their own culture. Is where we lend all of our energy, the promotion of other people's culture, other people's heritage, while we neglect ours. And we wonder why we're backward, why we're the most derided groups, why we're the most impoverished, why Africa, the continent, is the poorest and our people are the most impoverished. We're not minding our business. We're busy minding other people's business. We neglect and ignore our wares in the marketplace. So it only makes sense that we fail. That's the reality. Sad, but it's the reality. But we can make amends. And the time to start that is today, not tomorrow. My next point is that spirituality liberates and helps you develop the best version of yourself. And it's here on earth you can do that. You can only improve upon self, upon your soul here on earth. There is no room for improvement in space. That's space. There's no opportunity for that there. This earth was created so that humanity could play out this game of evolution. That's why the extraterrestrials made Earth. There is no the opportunity to improve in death is non-existent. Spirituality liberates. Religion, on the other hand, controls. It literally chokes life out of you. Religion kills the human spirit. It takes joy away from his soul, frightening ignorant, gullible people with hellfire. My next point is this. Spiritual systems are Ishembaye. Ishembaye means that which we met, or that which was bequeathed to humanity by the extraterrestrials, by the Irumales. The sacred text of Ifa was handed and taught to humanity in this part of Ule Ufe, in this part of the world. So those people are always saying that that they migrated from Mecca. You guys should just stop it. Stop it. It's nauseating. Every time I hear people say that, I turn around and look at them so that I can just be like, well, yeah, there goes another illiterate. You need to stop it already. Mecca. Let me leave that. Let me stick to what. Let me just continue. The sacred text of Ifa was bequeathed to the groups that lived in this part of Ule Ufe. That's Ife dialect for Ile Tufe. Earth is Ile. I've said that several times. Earth is Ile. Ileaye is our solar system. Now, this that I'm going to share is my own theory. I haven't come across it in any Urdu. I don't know all the Urdu. I actually know very few Urdus. So it's not impossible that what I'm saying is embedded somewhere. But this is my theory, and it's based off things. It's just how these things, how I've just connected several things in my own mind. The extraterrestrials created humans, and the way they did that was to tweak animal DNA to make us. So man is essentially part animal, part spirit. This is my theory, like I said. Man has evolved from a particular kind of ape-like being that is today extinct. We're animals. We shouldn't try to... Anybody who wants to argue that is only showing... is only telling us they're ignorant. If you want to argue the animal emergence of man, you're just telling us that you're not educated. If you look, every human, all of us, every human that is born has this point, on your lower back and your butt, your sternum. I think that's what they call it. I'm not sure if it's sternum or not. We have that 1, 2, 3. Those 3 points. That's the region where that animal that we evolved from, that was tricked, the animal that was tricked, the ape-like animal that was tricked to create us. That's a tail. That sternum is a tail. The 1, 2, 3 is a tail, which we no longer need because we've been tweaked. We were tweaked. The DNA of that being animal was tweaked to create man. So man is part spirit, part animal, and the purpose of sojourning on earth is to shed the animal nature to birth the full spirit, to attain divinity, spirithood. So spiritual systems are Ishembaye, bequeathed to the humanity by the Irumales, by the extraterrestrials. The Abrahamic faith, on the other hand, are man-made. All 3 of them were invented for the purposes of consolidation of political power. You don't have to believe me. Do your own research. But the problem is you won't. Because you've been conditioned to give your innate power away to authority figures, clerics, and in the case of Nigeria, the criminal element who parade as politicians. The average Nigerian doesn't have the guts, doesn't have the confidence to query a public servant. We call them public servant, right? That means they're supposed to serve the people. But the average Nigerian cannot question a public servant. How I know this? The other day, at about Christmas, someone invited me to a gathering and I went. There were a lot of people who were cronies of political figures present in that room. And one of them made a statement which made me say, oh, you should have queried him. He was in a room with someone who was the governor of his state, who he believed had done things that were unacceptable, that were unacceptable of a political figure. So I just innocently asked that, but since you had the opportunity, why didn't you put the questions to him when you had that opportunity? He gave me that look of like what am I saying? And I said, but you can't question politicians. So I'm like, who says who? The public servant. So why is it that the average Nigerian can't question authority figures? Because that's what their religion tells them. The authority figures have been appointed over you by God, so they're not to be questioned. a religious system that conditions you to be subservient, an education system, one that was bequeathed to you by colonialists, that also trained a young child up to become an obedient servant. So it's not a surprise at all, at least to those who are thinking and looking at things critically, why Nigeria is a near basket case. Because Nigerians have been weakened by religion and the kind of education that we receive. I did a content, I titled it, The Difference Between an Oligarch and a Politician. You want to say that too. And moving on, with spirituality, there are no dogmas. And a person on a spiritual path is not given to a rigid outlook of life. They're able to adjust to life as it evolves. Because essentially, like I've been saying, personal growth and humanity's collective evolution is the goal. And is the primary, is what spirituality teaches you. Encourages you to see, and then encourages you to practice these teachings that promote personal growth, which leads to collective evolution. On the other hand, religion wants you caged and controlled. Religion wants people conforming to standards of men who lived centuries ago. Life is progressive. Why, for Pete's sake, will I want to carry on a dead tradition from the 1st and the 7th century? Why? The nature of Awon, Irumale, and Osha is light. They are energetic beings of light, photon, if you will. They're creative forces, but they're personified in mythical stories for preservation and human understanding, so that we can understand them when we evolve, when we've learned enough, when we've matured, and we've reached the point of maturity in the sense that we can begin to connect the dots. We can begin to dissect these mythical stories to see the profound truth hidden in them for our benefit, to help us. The benefit is to help us evolve, attain godhood. Remember, God here is just as a placeholder. To attain divinity, to attain maybe immortality, you know. Whereas the nature of God, Allah, or Jehovah is anthropomorphic. The nature of the entities that permeate the spiritual path, you know, that permeate spiritual systems all around the world, be it Ifa, Hinduism, I think Buddhism too, you know, all of those kind of ancient spiritual systems. The nature of the entities are energetic, but in religion, the entities, that's God, Allah, and Jehovah, are anthropomorphic. They are ascribed human qualities because they were created by man, invented by man. They are ascribed masculine qualities, actually. Gray-haired, long beard, sitting on a throne in the sky. You know, and it's in the images of this God the man has been created. So Christopher Hitchens, I recall, once asked, somebody was having a debate with, if man is made in the image of God, then in whose image are women made? You know, women and monkeys. That was what he said, which I buy, which makes sense. I would only add and say that even the other life forms that we share our world with, in whose image are they made? Since God is a man, God is masculine. Sometimes I wonder, does God have a penis? Nobody has been here. I've asked that. I actually wrote an article. It's on Quora. And that article was based off a conversation that I had with a friend. I put that question to that friend and asked him if God has a penis. But he couldn't answer me. Spirituality teaches oneness, unity. Once you get on the spiritual journey or path, you soon come to value and see the interconnectedness of all things. And you begin to appreciate all the other life forms that we share our world with. And everything else in nature. You know to honor them. Because we're a part of nature. We're not separate from nature as religions teach. And religions teach this. That's the Abrahamic faith. And any other one that is like them that may not be known to me. They teach these things because the entire doctrines and dogmas are man-made, invented. So they didn't know that everything in the universe, not just earth plane, there is an interconnectedness. Everything is connected. There is oneness, unity. Man is not separate from nature. Man is a part of nature. But the men who invented organized religions didn't know this. So there was no way they could include it in their teachings. I've been talking for more than 20 minutes now. Not to stretch this so long. I'll just put a stop to this presentation here. Maybe sometime in the future I may come back and discuss some more. So that's it from my corner of the internet today, or my corner of YouTube. So until I come your way next time, it's Yetunde Olokun saying, Ew.